let's get into the next team here for the show. The best, probably the best team in New York, right there, Fajardo?
Stop. I need you to stop. Please stop.
Probably the best goaltender in New York, right?
Oh, God.
But
This guy.
so, you got Barzal making $7 million. You got Andres Lee making $7 million. You got Nelson making $6 million. Bailey making $5 million. Like, the good thing about this team, I'll say, when it comes to roster construction, no one's making $9-10 million, right? So a bunch of decently played players. You got Pulak making $6 million. Plek making 5.75, like nothing crazy. I mean, even Sorokin is making less than Varlamov, which is ridiculous, at only $4 million, and he's locked up for another season after this one. So let's get into it like we always do with the depth charts. And this is going to be not really a hot take, but these players need to bounce back. Some of these guys, like a guy like Barzal, who has all the potential in the world, he needs to get back to that elite tight level. So let's get into it. They got Lee, Nelson, and Bailey at the top line. Lee with 76 games played, 28 goals, 18 assists, 46 points. Like, yeah, that's okay. Nelson, 72 games, 37 goals, 22 assists, 59 points. The goal total's really good. Bailey, 74 games played, 14 goals, 30 assists for 44 points. Like, okay. You had Zach Parise, 15 goals, 20 assists, 35 points, and 82 games played. Like, at this point in his career, he's a third, fourth liner. Matthew Barzal, 73 games played, 15 goals, 44 assists for 59 points. Like, that's a decent season, but Barzal should be producing better than that. Kyle Palmieri, longtime New Jersey Devil, 69 games played, 15 goals, 18 assists, 33 points. Like, I look throughout this roster, I just see freaking below or average players. Like, that's it. Like, it's like Nelson has, I think, some upside, right, to score maybe 30 goals or so, but Barzal needs to produce more. Like, Zach Parise, unfortunately, will even need to produce more to make this team competitive. I mean, up front, I'm just not very impressed. Like, I think it's a lot of what ifs, right? Like, a lot of, like, let's hope. And then the problem is like a guy like Nelson and Barzal, right? I hate to put it this way, but, like, do you consider maybe pairing them up, maybe moving Nelson to the wing? But then that kind of destroys your center depth. So it's like, I think offensively they're a below average team.
I mean, as far as the forwards go, okay, so their numbers don't wow you, right? And obviously they don't have wowing numbers, period. But the way their team is constructed, they don't need wowing numbers. They're a heavily counter-attacking team. They're very defensive. They'll grind it out. They'll win a lot of 1-0 games or 1-point games in overall, because they really try not to give you anything. They're more about the grind, more about the shutdown, and that's how they win, right?
Absolutely.
That's what leads them to being competitive. I know that last season, they were at one point they were close to getting to the playoffs, and then they just fell off towards the end. But I mean, they competed all season with these numbers. They were there. They were on the brim. They just never got inside of it. And it really comes down to what style of play they're going to bring this year, right? Are they going to be more offensive or take more chances? With the forwards that they have, I don't see them doing that. I see them still grinding it out, trying to grind out teams and play that slow, boring, counter-attacking game. That they're going to wait for that one moment. They'll keep it 0-0 all the way until like the last 5 minutes of the game.
Right.
That's where they'll try to get the W.
I think the thing coming into a contract year for Barzal, yes, he's an RFA. They need to make sure that he is happy with the direction the Islanders are taking, because, yeah, they have his rights. They can match any offer. But if Barzal goes out and shows out, I mean, it's a real conversation. Like, he probably won't want to stay in a rebuild. Because like if I look at this team, like you're right, they're a gritty team, but I don't see any young and up and coming talent right here this upcoming season that's exciting.
And that's their biggest problem is like they had the Barzell, the Barzell frenzy when he got on here or whatnot, and then Tavares left, and they were like, oh, Barzell's gonna carry. Sorry, he's still, in my opinion, he's still in development stage. He still has to figure out some parts of his game. Yeah, offensively, he's showing a lot of sparks, and you look at him, you're like, oh my God. And you're right, he should be scoring a lot more. I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders trade Nelson or Barzell, now hear me on this, to a team like Carolina, where you have playmakers and you have these two guaranteed finish. Nelson and Barzell, they can finish. If you set them up, they're going to finish. And as we spoke about previously for Carolina, they have a lot of playmakers, but no real finishers. So look to maybe have a trade there where maybe they give somebody up and get somebody in return to kind of help both teams take that next step in improving themselves. Just saying.
The one thing is, if you make that move, let's say you trade Nelson, Barzell will not want to stay. If you're gonna make that, and I say that I know Nelson's contract goes till 2025, but even Nelson would probably can I maybe get shipped to a competitor? So I mean, it'll be an interesting season to watch. I just think there's gonna be more demand from players that I don't know have enough to give there. Defensively, though, let's get into it. Mm-hmm. Adam Pelech, Ryan Pulock.
Pelech has. Right.
I know. 78 games played, 3 goals, 25 assists, 28 points, 20 plus minus. Pulock, 56 games played, 5 goals, 16 assists, 21 points. You got Romanov, who I actually liked this move. I really did a lot. I'm only 22 years old. 79 games played, 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points. Noah Dobson, kind of a very high prospect. 80 games played, 13 goals, 38 assists, 51 points.
Guy's a stud.
You got Robin Salo, 21 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points, -6.
He's going to be special.
And they got Scott Mayfield, 61 games played, 3 goals, 15 assists for 18 points. Like, listen, Dobson's young, Romanov's young. I think that'd be a phenomenal pairing, both being young, both kind of being, having already logged quite a bit of minutes in the NHL. You got Pulock and Pelech that are really good defensively, man. They are hard to play against. So I like this decor. I actually like it quite a bit. I think it's like an above average to extremely good decor. They're very good in their own end, and the promising thing is they're all young. They're all young. I mean, I look at a guy like Romanov. I think he could give you more offensively. I think it's there.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I mean, the one thing I do like about this defensive core is that they don't over rely. So a lot of teams over rely on a defensive pair. These guys, and again, this is a type of game that the Islanders bring, right? It's a very gritty game, so they cannot over depend on anybody, and
right.
they evenly distribute the time with all their D-men, all their forwards, so nobody's overbearingly exhausted. Obviously in crunch time, you try to go with the top defensive pairing and your top line or whatever. But like I said, they don't really hit that crunch time for themselves until the last 5 minutes. By that time, most teams have already worn out their top line or their top defensive pairing. And this is where the Islanders actually have a kind of a good game plan against teams that they're at level with talent-wise. Is they'll wait. The other team is gonna throw their first line and first defensive pairing out a lot and give them more ice time. But then you have the Islanders that just kind of been rotating, and everybody's getting around the same amount of time. And then when they make that final push, they have a little more juice than the other guys, right? And that's where they make their difference. And if you look at the time for all their players, nobody's overwhelmingly different. Everybody's in the same range, and that's what makes them so successful in the style that they play. It's not a style that's going to probably take you to the Stanley Cup Finals every year, but sometimes when other teams are trying to figure out maybe some construction on, whether they're rebuilding or whatever the case is, right? Sometimes this type of a team can sneak in and make a deep run. And honestly, with the young players that they have already kind of in that system, they have a lot of upside to them. They have a lot of things going on, like Salo. Salo it's been a very high prospect for them, and I think that he's finally coming into his own.
Mm-hmm.
He's just gonna need to take that next step this season, and if he does, they're definitely going to be a lot more competitive. I think with like Scott Mayfield, he is what he is. There's not much more upside to him. What he is there is all you're going to get from him. Very grindy, you know.
Yeah, he's a good bottom pairing. He's a good bottom pairing defenseman, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now the biggest thing with this team is, can everybody stay healthy? Because Islanders have this style of play, but they really hurt. They have no depth. After this, there's nobody. So they really hurt when someone gets injured.
That's true.
That they win. Like with this lineup, they can win a lot of games. They can be competitive, but as soon as one player gets injured, that's when they start losing because they just don't have the depth in their system, for someone to take that step and come in and fill in the spot. And that's where they hurt every single season.
Yeah, I think that like defensively, this is one of the better decors in the whole league. Yeah. Let's get into the goaltenders. You got arguably the best goalie in New York, Sorokin.
Stop.
52 games played, 2.40 goals against, a 9.25 save percentage, 26 wins, 18 losses. You have Varlamov, 31 games played, 2.91 goals against, a 9.11 save percentage, 10 wins, 17 losses. Sorokin played out of his mind last season. All jokes aside, I think this is a guy that I think you can build for the future. I mean, Sorokin has a lot of upside. He plays a very steady game. I mean, I like a lot what I see from Sorokin. I think, honestly, all jokes aside, he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. I think he'll be good for a very long time because he plays a very solid game. I mean, I know it was his first season really, like with that many minutes, but he improved from when he got barely, like he only had 22 games played. And that's what you want to see, right? In his first season, 22 games played, 13 wins, 16 losses. He had a 9.18 save percentage, 2.17. What's he do the next season on kind of like an unperforming team? 52 games started, 26 wins, 18 losses, 8 overtime losses, 2.40 goals against. So a little bit higher with the goals against, but a 9.25 save percentage. He's trending in the right direction. He is 27 years old. Goaltender that's like entering your prime. And I like a lot. I think he's a great starter. Varlamov, what he brings you is experience. He's a very experienced goalie. He's been in a lot of different teams, a lot of different organizations, with the Capitals, with the Avalanche, now with the Islanders. I mean, Varlamov is a steady goaltender who's going to bring some experience, kind of bring a steadying hand. The one knock on Varley is that he can be very up and down. I know he's been with the Islanders for the past couple seasons at this point, but he can be very up and down. One season he can be like a 9.20, and the other season like a 9.10, 9.0 something. But I mean, I think for a backup goaltender, he's one of the best backups in the whole league. I'd say he's one of the best backups. I think he's like top 5 best backups in the NHL.
So my take on this is with Sorokin, he is a very good goaltender. He's definitely one of the better goaltenders in the league. But I think he's exactly like Georgiev, right? He needs the consistency of playing. And you saw it last season. As he played more, he definitely showed how good he is, right? So now, take this season with Varlamov being his backup. I think it's going to be an upward trend for them. I think that they both have better seasons, and I think that they'll, barring any injuries, if they can keep this roster together, I think that they could actually make a little bit of a run into the playoffs. My biggest worry is your whole entire forward section, outside of Barzell and maybe your third line, everybody's old. Everybody's over their 30s.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's not a young team.
And that's where the work. That's why I think for them, look at the first quarter of the season once it's passed, and maybe you're going to have to trade some of those key players. There's teams that have done this and been successful. But Brock Nelson, even Barzell, maybe trade them for pieces that fit your team better or prospects of rebuilding. Because at this point, you don't have anybody that can step in. You're going to have to start rebuilding very soon with the quality of guys you have. So you may want to start looking at getting draft picks or getting young guys out of systems that can probably fit what you're trying to do.
I mean, I definitely agree. I think that there's a lot of good defensive depth, good goaltending. Let's just go right into it. Wrap up part one of the Metro.
Yep.
The Islanders finished last season 82 games played, 37 wins, 35 losses, 10 overtime losses for 84 points. I think the last 10, I remember that last part of the season they were struggling. Do you think they finish any higher?
If they stay healthy and they can keep, the games close, I think they can sneak up to fourth and make a playoff run. And if they do, they'll be dangerous. They're a very dangerous team if they get into playoffs. But it's gonna really depend on their health throughout the season. And just for people watching, listen, yes, I'm a Ranger fan, obviously, right? But I am a New York fan, all right? I support all New York teams, and I do like the Islanders. I do like the way they construct themselves, the way that they're built. I do like what they have. I just fear that they're digging their own graves by not moving into some of these younger players and not drafting appropriately and not really looking for younger talent to replace some of the talent that they have now. And I think that's going to be their downfall. Not maybe this season, not necessarily this season, but maybe this season, depending on health reasons. But I think starting next season and for the next couple of seasons, they're going to have to face the reality of rebuilding the entire forward core. And that's going to be a painful one, especially considering they just got a new arena, the USB arena, which I've heard is amazing. I mean, from the outside, every time I pass it almost all the time, and it looks amazing. And from what I hear inside, it looks great. It's a great feeling there and everything. I haven't been. I'll probably go this season. But
we should go to a game.
Yeah, I'll probably be in there this season to go watch a game. So, yeah, I just think that they're really going to face they're going to be up against the wall when it comes to rebuilding, because they have essentially no blocks of rebuilding for that whole forward core at all.
No, they're going to have to start drafting. I mean, this upcoming draft is going to be deep. Even at the lower part of the draft, you'll get yourself a good prospect. I mean, for the Islanders, I think it all kind of look at the goals against, man. Like, they only had 237 goals against. I mean, that was like one of the best in the division, right? I think that's the fourth best in the division. And quite frankly, that was with all the injuries and stuff like that. And then but the problem is they only had 231 goals for. So they had a -6 goal differential. If their forwards can produce just probably even like 30, 40 more goals this season, they'd be a significant upgrade with health. I predict this. I think they're going to finish fourth in this division because I don't like Washington's goaltending situation. But that's for a future video. But yeah, I think fourth, fifth. I'm thinking they're going to sneak into the playoffs with fourth. I like their defensive depth and their goaltending depth as well. And I think with those two things, you can win and get on a pretty deep run. You know, even if your offense is just average, and that's what they need them to be, is average to above average at nights. As long as they play a solid defensive game, man, they could surprise people, man. You've had defensive teams win a cup. I'm not saying they're going to win a cup, but I'm saying that these type of teams, that the way they're built, can go on runs.
Yeah, I alluded to earlier, it really comes down to the health of the team. If they can stay healthy, I definitely think that they can finish. They can make a push and finish fourth and sneak into the playoffs. And if they make it to the playoffs, they are a very deadly team because of their style, because they're so defensively sound. The way that they work together as a unit, forwards, defense, all together. They grind the game. They make you grind the game out, and they literally just wait for counterattacking opportunities, right? And with that being said, a lot of the teams, they're driven on offense here and just defense there. But this team, they'll shut down your offense, and if you don't have a backup plan to your offense being shut down, you're going to struggle against this team. That's what makes this team so uniquely difficult to play against.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you are, whether you're Connor McDavid, Goudreau, anybody, to Chuck, it doesn't matter. You're going to find it difficult to play against the Islanders just because of the way that they set themselves up defensively, and they limit your opportunities.